In this video, I'm going to share with you every single mistake I made on the way to a 300 kilo deadlift so that you can learn from my mistakes and get stronger in half the time it took me. So a few years ago, I trained the deadlift very similar to how you do right now. I deadlifted once or twice a week on those generic intermediate training programs like 5x5, 531, Texas Method, and I listened to all the influencers on YouTube and Instagram who told me that I needed to push the deadlift super hard if I wanted to get stronger. So usually I was limited to deadlifting once a week, really heavy, sets of 5, and I did a bunch of slow, grindy reps. And the result was I didn't really make much progress. I felt beat up all the time, I kept tweaking my lower back, and the weight on the bar never really went up. I plateaued hard around the 4 to 5 plate range. I think I failed 5 plates like literally 10 times. And if you clicked on this video, you're probably in a similar position. You feel like you can't really progress your deadlift, you feel beat up all the time, you've stored like between 4 and 5 plates, or maybe you're even weaker than that. So in this video, I'm going to share with you exactly how to improve your deadlift and how to do it much more quickly than it took me. If you would like a plan that's ready-made, put together for you, top link in the description, and included is 3, 4, and 5-day training programs. So let's get straight into it. So the first mistake I made on the road to a 300 kilo deadlift was deadlifting way too hard. So I followed these pre-written programs, or I listened to the influencers who were talking about like you had to train super hard, you got to really push things if you want to get stronger, and it messed me up and I never really made much progress. And you watching this video, you probably got this idea in your mind that the deadlift is super hard to recover from and it's really taxing, and you probably think the deadlift is some like unique lift that you can only do like once a week. Twice a week is crazy. It's much harder to recover from than squatting and benching and stuff like that, right? And you probably got this view because the deadlifting that you do is really hard, really heavy, and really stressful, so that you can't recover from it. And because of that, you've limited yourself to only being able to deadlift once a week, and therefore you can't do enough work to actually get stronger at the deadlift. And we'll go into that a bit more in point 2, but generally, most of you are training the deadlift way too hard. Like, tell me if this sounds familiar. You're doing a bunch of sets that are like high effort. Probably you're getting close to failure on the final reps of the sets. The bar speed slows down a lot. You're like grinding, like your face is going super red and it feels really hard. And then afterwards you feel wrecked for like a week afterwards until you come to your next deadlift session. And then you're like, oh, the deadlift's this really hard lift that I can't recover from. And you get stuck in this loop of like, do a super hard deadlift session, can't recover. The next week you come in, you can't put more weight on the bar because you didn't recover, adapt, and get stronger. And it's because of all these excessively high intensities. And I did it for years. Like, I was doing sets of like 5 reps at like RPE 8, RPE 9, where I've only got 1 or maybe 2 reps left in the tank, like really hard deadlifting. And when I stalled, I thought like, oh, I just need to try even harder, even harder. I need to go in next session and just force more weight on the bar. And it's this mindset that really messes people up. And I think this came from all of these just terribly written training programs or influencers telling you like, oh, like train insane, or you have to destroy yourself to get stronger. And it's just not the case. I was getting back tweaks all the time and just never got any stronger, and it didn't work. And it's not working for you. Otherwise, you wouldn't be watching this video. So now I take a very different approach. Now I do a little bit of work, heavy and hard, but I do the bulk of my work like super light and super easy. So let me give you a quick example. So most of my training for the deadlift, I deadlift twice a week currently. I will do one top set, which is like 80% and above basically. It's a set of 1 to 5 reps, usually 1 to 3 reps at 80% or above. So this usually looks like a top triple at like an RPE 5 to 9. And week 1 of my training block, it will start quite light down at like RPE 5, and then it will scale up through the training block basically and get heavier and heavier. After that top set, once I've done my like heavy skill practice, then I drop down and I do some volume work, which is much lighter. It's in that like 60 to 75% range. Now the purpose here is we do the top set so that we can get some skill practice, we can push some heavy weight, we can practice like our low velocity strength production. Then we do all this volume work at a intensity that is manageable, that we can actually recover from. We can do a bunch of it, and it also allows us to recover and be able to deadlift more than once a week. So then we can come in a few days later and deadlift again and again and again. And that's how you get much stronger over time. So top set of 1 to 3 reps at RPE 5 to 9 is going to be somewhere between like 80 and 90% of your 1 rep max. Then drop down for your volume work in the 60 to 75% range. I would really encourage you to bring down the average intensity, and you'll find that you can do much higher quality volume, you can do it more often, and you can actually recover from it, adapt and get stronger. You're not absolutely like just killed by the volume, and you can actually then go and make progress. Okay, so that's mistake number one. Mistake number two, and this kind of builds on from mistake number one, is only deadlifting once per week. Now, a big reason why I could only deadlift once a week, and why you probably can, is because the deadlifting you're doing is way too hard, like I said. So you've got this idea that the deadlift is really taxing, really hard to recover from, and it's not the lift itself that's really hard and taxing. Yes, deadlifts are quite difficult, but they're not like this uniquely fatiguing exercise. You're just training them like way too hard. Like these programs have you training them like an idiot. Anyone is going to feel fatigued if we're going in doing a bunch of heavy sets of deadlifts close to failure. So once you've got that average intensity dialed down a little bit, you'll realize, oh wait, like actually I can do this lift multiple times a week. And I've even had lifters deadlift 3 times a week with great results. And I know a lot of powerlifting coaches take this approach now. And you might be surprised to hear that, but if you bring the intensity down, you find a tolerable dose of workload each session, you'll be able to deadlift more often. So most of you at the minute are probably limited to once a week deadlifting. And the problem is, like, how skilled do you think you can get at the deadlift doing it only once a week? Not very, right? Because if you wanted to get better at literally any other sport, you're going to practice it multiple times a week. Like if you wanted a great tennis swing, or you wanted to be able to dunk a basketball, you probably wouldn't train that sport like only once a week. Like you wouldn't even consider that like real practice, right? That's just like barely even a hobby doing it once a week. So we need to be able to deadlift more frequently. Some of you are going to get away with deadlifting once a week if you're like genetically gifted at the deadlift. But for most of us average guys like me and you watching this video, we need to do it a bit more often. And I found the sweet spot is twice a week for most people. So bring that average intensity down, stop doing so many sets close to failure, and then you'll see actually you're able to break that work up into 2 good deadlift sessions. Now, if you're used to deadlifting once a week, I would recommend that you start with your regular deadlift with the intensity brought down a little bit. And then on the second day, you do something like a Romanian deadlift or a stiff leg deadlift. Something that is still more deadlifting, but it's not super heavy, not super taxing. It's light enough that it allows you to kind of bridge from once a week to twice a week. Then once you're a bit more kind of adapted and accustomed to higher frequency deadlifting, then you can change that RDL to maybe something like a regular deadlift again, or like an opposite stance, a pulse deadlift, something like that, right? Eventually, though, the goal is to get you deadlifting more, because if you want to get super strong at the deadlift, you need to be able to deadlift often at good amounts of workload. You need to be doing a lot of deadlifting throughout the week. I would much rather, like, your current approach right now, deadlifting once a week, super heavy and hard. I would much prefer you to break that up into 2 like more moderate intensity sessions so that we can get more practice in throughout the week. So if you're watching this and you're wondering like, how would I even fit this into a program? Like, how am I supposed to squat twice a week, deadlift twice a week, and do all this benching and stuff? Top link in the description, and you'll see you basically receive like 60 total weeks of training. So that'll map it out completely for you. So mistake number 3 is doing a bunch of really heavy back work and posterior chain work. So the problem with a lot of these programming approaches that you're following right now is not only do they have you deadlift like really heavy and really close to failure and stuff like that, they also want you doing like loads of heavy back work. So like bent over barbell rows, like RDLs, good mornings, stuff like that. And if your experience has been anything like mine with those programs, your back just feels fried all the time. Like literally, I'd do all of that training. I'd do my rows, do my deadlifting and stuff. And my lower back was completely fucked. Like I had like pinching pain in my lower back. It was pumped all the time, really sore. I kept getting back tweaks. And obviously that interferes massively with your progress. Again, you can't recover and adapt. So if you're trying to do all these different things, you're spreading yourself too thin. And the way I set things up now is I do my deadlifting at a lower intensity like I recommended with the top set back off approach. And then my back work, I do exclusively on machines, chest supported, because I don't want to fatigue my lower back anymore. I want to take the lower back out of the equation, save my lower back for my squatting, my deadlifting. And then on my bodybuilding stuff, I purely just want to train like my upper back, my traps, my lats, my rhomboids, rear delts, stuff like that. So I pick chest supported variations that allow me to push those muscles super hard without fatiguing the lower back. And then when I come to deadlift, my lower back's more fresh and I can actually push the deadlift and recover, and I don't have a bunch of back pain and stuff like that. So I would highly recommend that you do your deadlifting at a slightly lower intensity, and then do your back work on machines, chest supported. Take the lower back out of the equation, and ditch the heavy like posterior chain work because it's probably overkill anyway. You don't need to be doing deadlifts twice a week, plus RDLs, plus good mornings, plus all this other stuff. It's just too much to recover from. So in general, I'll have most of my lifters deadlift twice a week at moderate intensities. Then I'll have them do a bunch of rowing, a bunch of like lat pull down work on machines. And that's about it, to be honest, unless they need more to make progress. Mistake number 4 is deadlifting with shitty technique. So a lot of you watching this video, I'm going to guess just without even seeing your deadlift, are making some of the most common deadlift errors. So things like you're yanking on the bar, you're not taking the slack out of the bar. Your feet are too wide apart, like you're trying to pull with your feet like outside of your hips. You're relying on straps too much. You're not using like a hook grip or a mixed grip or something. Your back is rounding a ton and like flexing and changing position throughout the lift loads, and then you've got lockout issues and you think you need to do a bunch of hip thrusts and lockout specific work like rack pulls. And the last one is a lot of you are looking down too much. So the head is like this, and then it encourages the upper back to round, and then you struggle to lock out and you wonder why you can't finish the lift. So those are the most common ones that I see, and I'm willing to bet that you're probably making some of those. Now, the way that I improved on that personally was I went and studied the best deadlifters a bunch. Like I watched loads of videos. I went to powerlifting competitions. I watched what all of the strongest deadlifters were doing. And then I didn't copy them, but I basically took aspects from each of their technique and adapted it into my own setup. And then over time, I came up with this setup that works really well for me. And I'll show an example on screen of my personal deadlift technique.
Nice knees, now let's move. Empty bar vibes, let's go. Pull, 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 pull. Leave it, finish it. Nice.
Another way that I improved my technique was I programmed in exercise variations like deadlift accessories that helped me to work specific weak points. So I used to yank on the bar and rush too much off the floor and my positioning suffered. So I started programming in pause deadlifts where I'd pause for 1 second when the bar is about an inch off the ground, and that really allowed me to kind of improve my positioning, and it really allowed me to kind of self-organize my technique, because it's really hard to pause the deadlift in a bad position. Like imagine you're trying to pause when the bar is like out in front of you, your back's super rounded. Straight away you're going to get that feedback that, oh, this feels super hard, I need to make an adjustment to make things feel more efficient, and over time you'll just develop better technique. So I took those steps, and then basically once I was happy and confident with my technique, I opened up a notes page and I basically wrote down step by step my setup so that I would remember it. And like basically when I had those days where I feel like I'd forgot how to deadlift, like, you know, sometimes you get those days, I would look back at the notes page and it would help me to just get things clicking again and to help my technique feel a little bit better. So I would highly recommend that you do the same. Now, the final mistake number 5, was not individualizing my training. So for far too long, I wasted time following those like generic like cookie cutter programs, or just like trying to write my own and stuff like that, and basically failing. And if I could give you one piece of advice from this video, it would be to just get on something that's written by someone with more experience. And it doesn't have to be me. There's a bunch of other good programs out there, like Barbell Medicine have great programs, Reactive Training Systems, PR's Performance. They've all got great programs that you can go and run. But stop trying to do everything on your own. Like, there are people out there who are much stronger than you and know much more than you. So literally just go copy what they do. Don't try and just run these shitty programs that aren't getting you anywhere. Like, you don't get a gold badge for saying, oh yeah, I completed the program. Like, if you didn't hit PRs, what's the point? You just wasted a bunch of time. So I ran those programs for way, way too long. Kept stalling out, and I thought if I just try harder next time I'll make progress, and obviously I didn't, and I got stuck like around 5 plates. And I would recommend that you do the same. Just go get on something that's better written straight away. So a good way for you to kind of start that process, if you don't want to like pay for something, is literally go and write yourself 1 week of training. And I've got a video here that kind of explains how you can go about setting up your own training program, and it gives you a free example. But go and write yourself 1 week of training based on all the data you've kind of accumulated over the years. So if you know that you need to deadlift twice a week to make progress, you need to be doing this much volume, you need to do this variation, you need them on Monday, Thursday, you need them on these specific days. Go and write your own and just have a go with it and experiment and kind of iterate things week after week based on how you're responding. That's definitely going to be an upgrade over this generic program you're doing at the minute. And then if you need further help and you want someone else to help you, click one of the links in the description. You can either hire me as your coach, or you can take my strength course that will literally just give you programs that are a big upgrade over the ones you're doing right now. So yeah, those are basically the biggest mistakes I made in my deadlift. And if I would have addressed some of those sooner, I would have hit 300 kilos so much sooner. So just to summarize them, mistake number 1 was training the deadlift far too hard. Mistake number 2 was deadlifting once per week, and that was because I was deadlifting too hard. Mistake number 3 was trying to do a bunch of heavy back and posterior chain work on top of my deadlifting. Mistake number 4 was pulling with shitty technique, not improving my lifting technique over time. And mistake number 5 was trying to do it all alone, not individualizing my training and running cookie cutter programs for way too long. So thank you so much for watching this video. I really hope you take some of these tips, you learn from my mistakes, and you go and hit some deadlift PRs in the gym. If you've got any questions, comments, and things like that, post them in the comment section down below. Again, check out the description if you want some programs just ready-made for you. And until next time, I'll catch you in the next video.